Our video today is on mainly volume, but I wanted to go through some of the other definitions that you may have seen in the past. So real quick, in the term part of this, volume is the capacity of an object to hold an amount. So we're looking at a three-dimensional object. An area is the area covered by an object. So if you're painting a wall or covering a floor, you want to find the area. Perimeter, the distance around an object. This is an object that has edges, so if you think about putting edging on your walls or a fence in your yard, you're looking at something for perimeter. Circumference is the distance around a circle. So anything circular you'll be asked to find circumference of this. For this section, I'm going to allow you to use a calculator just because the numbers could be pretty large and different things like that. So enjoy that part of it. So volumes. Volume, the units are cubed. So an example would be meters cubed, centimeters cubed, or liters cubed. So you're multiplying three things together for that. For area, the units are squared. So again, we're going to use the 2 in the power part because you're multiplying 2 of the units together. For perimeter and circumference, you only have one unit in the sense they're singular, or you're adding them together. In the case of perimeter, so meters, centimeters, inches, and so forth. So in a two-dimensional object, you're going to probably find length and width. If it's a square, it's going to be all sides of the same, so they're just going to give you one side. A triangle, that one's a little bit different. You'll see that formula a little bit later. With a circle, you have diameter and radius. For most of us, we're going to use radius for the formulas here that we're going to use today. So if you have to find given diameter, we'll show you how to find radius. And then for three-dimensional objects, you have a height component for this. And for a sphere is the other three-dimensional object that we'll work with. And there, again, it's similar to a circle, but you'll be given radius or diameter in that case. So some of the formulas that you're going to be using, these are some that you want to hang on to until you graduate or even into college. So cylinders, the general one, you're going to notice a general equation for all of these, and it's the base times the height. So the B is capitalized here, and the base is just the area of the object. So if they already give you something that has something squared, so centimeters squared, they've already given you the base. All you have to do is multiply it by the height in some cases. So for a cylinder, the specific one is pi r squared because the base is a circle, and times it by your height. For a cone and a pyramid, these are the other objects that we're going to be finding volume for. These are a third of the size of a regular prism. So you're going to have to deal with the 1/3 part of this. So again, the base is the area. So in a cone, our base is a circle. So 1/3 pi r squared, and we'll use 3.14 for the pi. And then we'll take it times our height. The pyramid one is the one that you got to be careful of because that one has multiple bases that you can use. So you want to look at the base that's given so you can have a triangular, a square, or a rectangle for that. But in the general one, it's 1/3 base times height. But in the specific one, it really depends on what the base is. So if you're a triangle, square, and a rectangle, you'd have different formulas. This is the one that you want to take a little bit more time with. So in bases, our area formulas would be 1/2 times base times height, square is s squared, and rectangle is length times width. So that one will be the one that you have to really take your time on. The one that's kind of the most complicated one of all, seeming wise, but it shouldn't be, is for a sphere. So you're given like a ball, and you're given the radius, or you may be given the diameter, which you have to find the radius. So the formula is 4/3 pi r cubed. But we want to kind of think of it this way: 4 times pi times r cubed, and then divide that all by 3. Again, you can use your calculator. Yes, you'll come up with decimals, and yes, I'll tell you where to round it to get your answer for it. So let's find some volume. Very pretty simple stuff here. We shouldn't have too much issue in the general sense of finding volume of an object. So for a cylinder, pi r squared, because we have a circular base, times our height. So we're just going to plug our numbers in. We're going to square the middle one, or the radius, and we're going to come up with a rather large number. Again, this is why I'm allowing you to use your calculators. But the units here, why we come up with centimeters cubed, is because we have centimeters squared times centimeters, so it's centimeters, centimeters times centimeters, and that gives you your cube part. For a cone, again, it's a cone shape. It can be an upside down ice cream cone. Think of it that way, sugar cone. Here we're going to use 1/3 times our base times our height. So again, we're just going to fill in our numbers. We're going to square this, and we're going to multiply all the numbers. We can multiply this, all of these three, and then divide by 3. Now, if you find something that you can reduce and 3 will go into one of these numbers, then do that. It's the same thing. But the easiest way is to multiply across and then divide by 3. And then, like I said, we'll worry about the decimal points here as we go. Now, in regards to this, in this problem you were given diameter, but we have to use radius. So you notice that my 20 and my 40 were different. Well, in order to find my radius is half the diameter. So if you're given diameter, divide it by 2 to get your radius. So this is a little side problem that you'd have to do in order to get your radius if you're given diameter. And then we want to use the radius in the problem as we go and square it. So that, again, should not be too much of an issue with that type of problem. A few more, and this is where it gets a little complicated with this, especially the drawings. So we have a square pyramid. So we have a pyramid comes to a point at the top. So we have an 11-inch, but we don't get any other numbers for the rounded. So if they do this, that means that all the sides are equal. So this is a square base. So we would use our formula 1/3 times base times height, throw in our squared or s squared for sides, and then we would just put our numbers in. So s squared is our 11, and then the height will be shown generally by a dashed line, but sometimes it's a different, just a solid line for that. Multiply again your numbers, divide by 3, and then that gets your answer. And again, we'll deal with the rounding part of this as we go. For the middle one, we have a rectangular base. So we're going to use, instead of s squared, we're given 2 numbers. So we have length times width, which is the area of a rectangle. Again, multiplying our numbers once we put them in. There you can see the 3 centimeters. And we're going to divide by 3 to get our answer of this. The last one is the one that's the most complicated one in the sense of how you got to put the problem together, and that's when you get a triangular base, because you really need 2 heights here. You need one for the triangle's area, which is here, and then you need the height of the actual pyramid. So there's 2 heights that you're going to be dealing with. Make sure that you know which one is which. But again, if you keep everything straight, the base is going to be the triangle, which is 1/2 base times height. So our formula is 1/3 times 1/2 times our base, which was our 3, 4, which is our height, and 4, which was the height of the whole pyramid. Multiply all these together. Now, if you notice, 3 can reduce with 3 here, 2 can reduce with 2, and then again we'll be getting our volume of 8 yards cubed. So be very careful in how you set the problem up, because that's going to dictate how you solve the problem. Okay? Now, we got a couple more to look at, and that is a sphere. So again, a sphere, this one's pretty straightforward actually, but people get this one confused a lot. So our formula again is 4/3 pi r cubed, but we're going to think of it this way. Take our 4 times our pi times our r cubed, cube your radius, multiply it by 3.14, multiply it by 4, and then divide by 3. And yes, you're going to come up with a decimal. And again, we'll deal with that as we go with this part. So it's not as complicated as you think. The only thing is, if they give you diameter, divide it by 2, and then use the radius in that part of it. Now, one of the other things that they're going to throw at you is they're going to give you and say in terms of pi, meaning you do not multiply 3.14 times it. You'll actually have pi, the symbol, in your answer. So if we look through, and this only happens with circular objects that have a circle for a base or a sphere. So if we go through a sphere problem, you notice that we have our 4/3, which we set up here. We have our radius, which is 4, but we leave the symbol of pi here. We do not put 3.14 in. So we would cube this, multiply, divide, get our number for our constant here, but then we'd have the pi symbol in the answer as well, along with the correct units. So the biggest thing is you don't multiply by pi in here. So for the last one in the cylinder part, we have the cylinder, base times height, base is a circle. So again, we would leave the pi alone, we would square our radius and multiply it by our height, and then we get 60 times pi, which would be 60 pi yards squared. Actually, this should be yards cubed because we're figuring out the volume. So again, if they're asking you for in terms of pi, the pi symbol stays in your answer for the problem. The last thing is they may ask you to solve for a certain part of the formula. So in this case, they're going to give you the volume of this cylinder. We have to find the height. So again, it's just putting numbers in, multiplying and simplifying the problem down, and leaving that variable in there. And that's what we're going to solve for. So again, you're going to get down to a basic one-step equation where you're going to probably have to divide by the number and the unit on this case, because we're just looking for h in the sense of this cylinder. So we're given our volume, we know what pi is, we're given our radius, we're going to square that, and then we're going to find out what that is, and then we're going to divide by both sides, and that gives us our height of 20.8 in this case. So again, it's just putting your numbers in for the right letters and then solving for what you've got and simplifying it down. So if we're given a rectangular prism, again, volume is length times width times height. So we're given the volume of 200 centimeters cubed. We want to look for the width. So 10 times 5 gives me the 50. I'm going to divide by 50 to both sides, and it comes up with my side or my width of 4. So again, really straightforward. You can use a calculator. The thing I'm going to look for in your work is, are you solving or setting up your formula for, and I don't care that you set up the general one, I just did this in the video to show you, but I'm looking for the main one. So what is the main formula for the problem? Set that up first, throw your numbers in, and show your work on the way down. And that's the only way that I'm allowing you to use a calculator in this part if you show your work. Other than that, bring your notes, ask your questions, and we'll get this taken care of.